Come in. Turn the lights off if you can. I should warn you now. This isn't a story with a happy ending. There isn't a clever twist where everything turns out to be fine. It's just a story about a woman who lived alone at the edge of a field and the 7 recordings she left behind. I'm going to tell it to you backwards. We'll start with her last morning, then the morning before that, and we'll keep going until we reach the first one. Because on that first morning, Marin did one small thing, something so ordinary you probably wouldn't think twice about it. But that one thing started everything. And when we get there, you'll probably want to reach into the story and stop her. You won't be able to. There was a farmhouse at the edge of the fen. Low roof, old walls, a long stretch of empty land behind it. It was cheap because it was far from everything. And that was exactly why Marin rented it. She wanted to be alone, not temporarily, not because she was angry with anyone. She just wanted somewhere quiet enough to finally hear herself think. Beyond the garden, the land stretched out across 6 fields, each separated by an old hedge, and beyond those fields was a dark line of trees. Every morning, Marin would make her coffee, go outside, and record a little diary on her phone. Nothing elaborate, just a few minutes about how she was feeling, what she'd done the day before. The sort of things people say when they think about nobody will ever hear them. There were 7 recordings, and we are going to listen to them in reverse, starting with the seventh. The last recording is short, and honestly, I wish it were longer. Marin is whispering. She's hiding in the pantry, and the last thing that's been standing out in the field for the past 6 mornings is now inside the house. For 6 days, she'd seen it standing somewhere in the distance, always facing her front windows, always too far away to make out a face. But now, it's in the front room, and it isn't looking at the windows anymore. It's facing the pantry door, the door behind which Marin is hiding. She says something strange in the recording. She says she can't hear it breathing. In fact, she's not sure it breathes at all, but she knows which way it's facing. Then there's a sound, a floorboard, very close. Marin stops talking, and the recording ends. That's all there is from the 7th morning. Now let's go backwards. And the farther back we go, the farther away the thing is. You'd think that would make the story less frightening. It doesn't. On the 6th morning, it was 1 field away. The last field, just one hedge between it and Marin's garden. Still standing there, still facing the house. By this point, she'd nailed the curtains shut downstairs. She knew it was pointless. The thing wasn't trying to look through the windows. It wasn't trying to get inside. It just stood there and waited. Marin had called her sister Jo the night before, but she hadn't told her the truth. Because how do you explain something like that? There's something in my garden. It looks like a man, except it doesn't move, and somehow I'm the only person who can see it. Jo wanted to drive up. Marin told her not to, because she knew exactly what would happen. Jo would walk straight to the window. She'd look outside. She'd see nothing, and she'd tell Marin everything was fine, and she'd be right. There would be nothing there for Jo. Marin couldn't bear the thought of watching the one person who loved her stand exactly where that thing stood and feel absolutely nothing. By the 5th morning, Marin had stopped sleeping. Not because she couldn't sleep, because she'd figured something out. The thing only seemed to move when she wasn't looking. For 5 mornings, she'd watched it getting closer, but she'd never actually seen it take a step. So that night, she sat at the upstairs landing window, lights off, eyes fixed on the field. It was 3 fields away, and it didn't move, not once, for hours. No swing, no shifting, nothing. Eventually, dawn began to break. Birds started singing. Marin's eyes were burning from staring. They were watering, so she blinked, just once. One quick blink to clear her eyes, and when she opened them, it was closer, 2 fields away. She hadn't seen it move. There was no movement to see. It was simply nearer, as if the stillness had been the lie, and the movement was happening in the moments she wasn't looking. That morning, while tearing the house apart for anything that might explain what was happening, Marin found a drawer that wouldn't open properly. Behind it was a note, a very old note, left by the people who had lived in the farmhouse before her. Marin read it aloud into her phone. I think she needed to hear her words herself. The note said, "You've seen it by now, out at the trees. Don't photograph it. The camera won't hold it. Don't walk out to it. The field is longer towards the trees than it is coming back. Don't count the mornings. The counting feeds it. And most importantly, don't answer it. Don't wave, don't nod, don't call out. It only comes for the ones who answer." We never answered, not once in 11 years. It stood at the trees the whole time. We were happy here. We are leaving you the house. And the one rule, don't answer the field. And then Marin went quiet. Because she remembered. She remembered the first morning. The first time she'd seen it. She remembered how happy she'd been. How she walked into the garden with her coffee, looked across the fields, and seen a tiny dark shape standing by the trees. And before she'd found the note, before she knew there was anything to fear, she had waved. She'd smiled. She'd waved at it. The previous owners had lived there for 11 years without answering it. 11 years, and it had never come closer. Marin had answered it within 10 minutes. There was nothing she could do now, because the one thing she needed to undo was something she'd already done 6 days ago. On the fourth morning, Marin tried to make sense of it. 6 fields, she counted them. 6 fields between the farmhouse and the trees. On the first morning, the thing had been at the tree line. Now it had crossed 3 hedges. One field every night. 3 fields left. 3 nights. The arithmetic was simple. And that was what frightened her most. There was no mystery in the numbers. If it kept moving at the same speed, she knew exactly which morning it would reach her house. She took photographs, 20 of them, zoomed all the way in. Even photographs showed the field, the hedges, the trees, nothing else, no figure, no shape, nothing. She sent one of the photos to Joe. "Does this look strange to you?" Joe replied. "It looks lovely. Are you sleeping?" That was the moment Marin realized how completely alone she was. There was something walking across 3 fields toward her house, and she couldn't prove it existed. Not to Joe, not to the police, not to herself. On the third morning, Marin decided she was done being afraid. It was broad daylight. The sun was out. The thing was 4 fields away. She looked at it and told herself the obvious answer. It was a scarecrow. That's all. She was a grown woman. She was living alone. She'd been there too long. She was frightening herself. She decided to walk out there. Just walk up to it. Touch it. Prove to herself that it was nothing. She crossed the first hedge, then kept walking and walking. And something was wrong. The field wouldn't end. The trees weren't getting any closer. Neither was the figure. It stayed exactly the same distance away. She walked for 40 minutes. Behind her, the farmhouse had almost disappeared. But ahead, the thing was still there. Still facing the house, still facing her. It hadn't moved. It hadn't turned. It hadn't done anything. And yet, some primitive part of Mary understood something before her mind did. She did not want to see its face. Not up close, not ever. So she ran. The walk out had taken 40 minutes. The walk back took 2. She called Joe. She told her part of what had happened. Joe laughed, not cruelly, kindly. She told Marin she'd been alone too long. She told her it was probably a scarecrow. Then she said, "Come home for the weekend." And for a moment, Marin almost did. She wishes in the recording that she had. Because on the third morning, in broad daylight, with her sister laughing on the phone, it still looked like a scarecrow. By the second morning, it had a shape. It was somewhere beyond the first edge. Close enough now that Marin could tell it was roughly human. It stood upright, facing the house. It never walked, never moved. Marin kept trying to come up with explanations. Maybe it was a rambler. Maybe someone who had put up a survey marker. Maybe it was a scarecrow someone had moved. Something ordinary. Something she'd laugh about tomorrow. And then, almost immediately, she started talking about how beautiful the house was, how well she'd slept, how she'd made bread from scratch, how this was exactly what she'd wanted. Space, quiet, nobody around. She even laughed about the strange shape standing in the field. Then she said, "I'll wave at it again tomorrow. See if it waves back." And now the first recording. This is the one that matters. Maren sounds happy, really happy. She is standing in the back garden in her dressing gown, holding a cup of coffee. Birds are singing. There's wind in the trees. Nothing else. Just an enormous sky above six empty fields. And she talks about how everyone had warned her she'd hate living somewhere this remote, too far away, too quiet, too lonely. But she says something I think is important. She says, "This is the least lonely I've felt in years." Then she pauses. She says, "Being far from people isn't the same as being lonely. I think I forgot that. I think I really needed to remember it." And then she notices something, a little dark shape standing out at the tree line. She assumes it's a walker, maybe a scarecrow. It's too far away to tell, and it's not moving. She looks at it for a moment. Then she says, "It's sort of nice, isn't it? To not to be the only thing awake out here. To look across all that empty and have something look back." And that's the moment, because Marin is lonely, and it's a beautiful morning. And more than anything, she wants that little shape out to be a person. So she lifts her hand and calls out, "Morning." Then she laughs at herself. It's half a mile away. It couldn't possibly hear her. Still, she gives it a wave, neighborly. And then, smiling, she says, "There, hello, you, whatever you are." And then she waves. That's it. Nothing dramatic happens. No scream, no sudden movement. No figure rushing across the field. Just birdsong, wind, and Marin saying that her coffee had gone cold, and that she's going to be very happy here. That's the first morning. That's all she did. She waved. That's the story I told you. It was a fright. And honestly, I don't think there's a lesson in it. Marin didn't do anything evil. She wasn't reckless. She wasn't trying to summon something. She was lonely. Properly lonely. The kind of lonely you don't always admit to yourself. And then one beautiful morning, she looked across an enormous empty field and wanted the shape standing there to be a person. She wanted it badly enough to wave. That's all. That was a mistake. And apparently, that's all it takes. So there's just one thing I'll leave you with. Some night when you're tired, when the house is quiet, when you're farther from other people than you'd like to admit, you might notice something. A shape at the end of the garden, a figure standing in the doorway, something far away, perfectly still, facing you. If you see it, don't be polite, don't wave, don't call out, don't answer. Just come inside, close the curtains, and leave it there at the trees. Good night.